Post-World War I, a nation embarks on a radical social experiment to erase the concept of the divine using the cold edge of reason. In a crowded public square, three masters of human knowledge stepped onto the podium. Their mission? To dismantle thousands of years of faith with a few scientific breaths. First, the astronomer. For 20 years, his eyes remained glued to the lens of a telescope, scanning the silent, freezing voids of the cosmos. His verdict was clinical. I have mapped the stars and cataloged the nebulae, yet in all that vastness I found no throne and no creator. Therefore, God is but an optical illusion. Next, the surgeon, a man who had looked into the raw machinery of life more than anyone. After peering into the cavities of hundreds of corpses, slicing through muscle and bone, his conclusion was devoid of emotion. I have searched every fiber of the human brain and every chamber of the heart. I found blood, nerves, and tissue, but I never found a soul. Then came the philosopher. With a calculated, chilling grace, she stood before the cheering crowd.
Death is a candle extinguished.
Once the flame is gone, there is only darkness. No judgment, no heaven, no hell. I have devoured the wisdom of the East and the West, and I assure you, there is nothing beyond the void. The applause was deafening. The truth seemed settled. But in the silence that followed, a haunting question remained. Is God truly absent, or are we simply blind? We live in a world defined by what we can touch, yet we forget that our senses are merely narrow windows. As science evolves, the boundary between the physical and the supernatural is blurring into something far more complex, and perhaps far more terrifying. Could it be that our modern science was simply too primitive to recognize the architect? While those three experts stood in the square, they were unaware of the revolution on the horizon. A world-renowned theoretical physicist has stepped forward. Using the intricate hidden dimensions of string theory, he argues that a grand designer isn't a myth, but a mathematical necessity.
Einstein says we live in a four-dimensional world. We can go forward, backward, left, right, up, down, and the fourth dimension is time. But now we're beyond Einstein, and we have to go beyond 4 dimensions to perhaps, let's say, 10, 11 dimensions, a gateway between higher dimensional universes.
In 1955, an elementary school classroom, a teacher enters, her voice trembling. The greatest scientist of our time is dead. That evening, every newspaper featured a photograph of a desk. On it sat a lamp, a stack of books, and a single, unfinished manuscript. The man was Albert Einstein. The headline read, "The greatest unfinished work of the greatest mind." Among the millions who saw that photo was 8-year-old Michio Kaku. While the world mourned, the child was consumed by one thought. Why couldn't he finish it? Was it a problem too difficult even for Einstein? In that moment, a pact was made. A boy decided he would not just follow Einstein, he would finish what the master had started. Michio's mind was fueled by the impossible. Every Saturday, he sat mesmerized by Flash Gordon. While others saw a TV show, Michio saw a blueprint for the future. Starships, cloaking devices, and floating cities. He began to ask, can we walk through walls? Is time travel merely a matter of mathematics? To Michio, the impossible was simply a law of physics not yet solved. While other teenagers played sports, Michio was building a monster in his mother's garage. He scoured scrap yards in Westinghouse for 400 pounds of steel. He wrapped 22 miles of copper wire across a football field to create an electron accelerator with a power of 2.3 million electron volts. It consumed 6,000 watts of electricity, the total power of his house, generating a magnetic field 20,000 times stronger than Earth's. When he flipped the switch, it drained every watt of power from his home. He wasn't just doing a science project, he was trying to tear the fabric of reality. Michio aims to create enough energy to produce antimatter gamma rays. This bold ambition made it to the National Science Fair, earning him a scholarship to Harvard University. He was no longer just a dreamer, he was a physicist in the making, walking the path Einstein left behind. Years later, the boy became the master. Kaku realized what that unfinished manuscript truly was: the theory of everything, a single equation to unify the universe. Today, as a co-creator of string theory, he has distilled the cosmos into an equation barely 1 inch long, a tiny string of symbols that promises to explain why the stars shine and how the universe began. Einstein died at the doorstep of the ultimate truth, but has Michio Kaku finally found the key? Today, we explore the mind of the man who turned science fiction into reality through the mystery of string theory. Great scientists often stand at a precipice, staring into the abyss of profound philosophical dilemmas. Einstein once famously whispered into that void, "God does not play dice with the universe." Michio Kaku is no stranger to this internal war. Born in the West, but haunted by the deep meditative echoes of Japanese culture, he found himself immersed in a duality of spirit. While his hands were buried in physics, his mind wandered through ancient texts. The myths of the East and the West didn't just tell stories, they expanded his horizon, forcing him to view the cosmos not just through a cold scientific lens, but through the flickering light of religion. He began to explore the shadows of our reality that science had yet to name. He looked back at ancient Greece, Zeus, the king of kings, who could rewrite reality by mere thought, turning the void into tangible matter. Venus, with a body that defied the decay of time. Apollo, whose chariot blazed across the heavens. But Kaku asked a chilling question. If these gods were real, why do they remain hidden from our modern eyes? It was then he realized the terrifying truth. The world is multidimensional. We are prisoners of a three-dimensional cage, blind to the life forms moving in the higher planes just inches away. Why can't we perceive them? Why are our physical bodies anchored to this shallow dimension? As he struggled for a way to prove this invisible architecture, an unexpected trip to Japan provided the spark.
In Japan, May 5th is more than a date. It is a ritual. That day is celebrated as Children's Day, specifically for boys. Families with sons hang koi flags on this day, hoping their boys will grow up to be successful. Koi flags flutter in the wind, carrying a legacy from the Edo period and an ancient Chinese soul. They speak of the Dragon Gate, a threshold where only the chosen may pass. As the Song Dynasty scholar Liu Dian wrote in Bi Ya Shi Yu, the fish that crosses the Dragon Gate will transform into a dragon with 81 scales of the 9 yang, a koi with 36 scales of the 6 yin, a creature of 1,000 years, the closest thing to a god in the water. One day, Michio Kaku stood by a pond watching the koi swim. To any other eye, it was a peaceful scene. To him, it was a revelation. He realized that the koi live in a flattened reality, a two-dimensional world where they have no concept of above. They swim, oblivious to the three-dimensional giants watching them from the surface. In their world, the sky is a mirror they cannot break. The observers are but ghosts beyond their comprehension. Imagine a koi leaps. It breaks the surface and enters a world of blinding light. It sees creatures with legs, arms, and no fins, beings that breathe without water and move with a freedom that defies the laws of the pond. To the koi, this is an alien encounter. If it returned to the depths and told its kin, "I saw beings with 2 legs and no fins," the answer would be simple: you are insane. For in the pond, the impossible is simply that which hasn't been seen yet. This brings us to a haunting possibility. If we broke the cage of our 3-dimensional space-time, would we find the realm of the deities? From a distance, dimensions seem simple: a line, a plane, a space, and the 4th, time. But humans, like the koi, are anchored to their own dimensional floor. We call the realms beyond invisible, but invisibility is not a synonym for non-existence. Michio Kaku reached a chilling conclusion. He must find the evidence for that which does not exist. He refused to accept the limitations of his biological eyes. Following in Einstein's footsteps, he is determined to prove the existence of the unseen, to find the mathematical fingerprints of a world that we, the koi of the universe, are not yet meant to see.
The koi pond was merely a doorway. Beyond it, Kaku found a universe fractured in 2. In modern physics, 2 major theories describe the universe: general relativity and quantum mechanics. General relativity explains the universe's large-scale structure, while quantum mechanics describes the microscopic world. Ideally, these theories should work together seamlessly. However, when scientists discuss the Big Bang, they discover the phenomenon of singularities, and the moment of the explosion belongs to both the microscopic and macroscopic worlds, revealing conflicts between quantum mechanics and general relativity in their descriptions of the 4 fundamental forces. What are these forces? In our shallow reality, we see them as buoyancy, magnetism, or the grip of glue. But in the deep fabric of existence, they are the 4 pillars: gravity, electromagnetism, the strong force, and the weak force. For a century, science has tried to weave them into a single tapestry. Equations vanished, replaced by simpler truths, as the 2 theories drifted toward each other. Yet, just as the bridge was nearly complete, a new specter emerged from the shadows: string theory. Michio Kaku, a pioneer of this new frontier, proposes a hypothesis that feels more like art than physics. Particles are not points, not dots of matter, but tiny, invisible strings of energy. Imagine the universe as a violin. Depending on how these strings vibrate, they produce different notes, and those notes are the particles that make up your very soul. This is the theory of everything, the sacred equation that promises to heal the rift between the small and the great. But the mathematics demands a price. For string theory to breathe, the universe cannot stay as we see it. String theory proposes a famous hypothesis: all particles are not point-like objects, but are tiny, invisible strings of energy. These strings vibrate in different ways, much like violin strings produce different musical notes. Fundamental particles arise from these different vibrational states. It requires a 10-dimensional space, 9 dimensions of space, and 1 of time. It sounds like a fever dream, a mathematical abstraction that defies everything we touch. Where could this 10-dimensional labyrinth possibly come from?
If we observe the moon from Earth, we see it moving in a circular path, which is essentially 2-dimensional motion. From the sun's perspective, Earth moves in a circular orbit, while the moon's path resembles a helical spiral representing 3-dimensional motion. From the center of the Milky Way, the sun exhibits circular motion, while Earth follows a helical spiral, and the moon's movement combines these into a 6-dimensional motion. Looking from the center of the universe, the black hole at the Milky Way's core moves in circular motion, While the Sun follows a helical spiral, Earth's orbit becomes a blue trajectory in the image, and the Moon's orbit becomes a red trajectory in the image. The Moon's helical spiral includes 2 layers of helical motion, resulting in a 9-dimensional motion. Adding 1 time dimension forms a 10-dimensional space. In 1995, at the International String Theory Conference at the University of Southern California, American mathematician Edward Witten proposed that all string theories share from a single origin, leading to the development of M-theory. This theory unified all versions of string theory, advancing it to a new level. M-theory suggests that the universe's largest dimension is 11, which includes the 9 spatial dimensions of string theory. When integrated into a higher dimensional space, it becomes 10 spatial dimensions plus 1 dimension of time, forming an 11-dimensional universe. If we shrink the universe to the size of an atom and look at the movements of cosmic bodies, we would see the vibrations of microscopic strings. The movement of black holes and neutron stars would be open string vibrations, while the Sun, Earth, and Moon's movements would be closed string vibrations. In essence, string theory posits that the universe doesn't consist of particles, but of strings vibrating in space. Every natural interaction, material, and form of energy can be explained through the splitting and joining of strings. Ultimately, these multidimensional worlds are all around us. Much like koi fish cannot leave their pond, we too are bound by the environment in which we live. We are the koi fish and the universe is our pond. We are bound by the dimensions we inhabit, blind to the worlds stacked above us. But if we were to leave the water, we would find a unified space-time continuum that feels strangely familiar. At this point, does it sound familiar to you? That's right. It seems like there's a similar concept in Buddhist texts. Perhaps thousands of years ago, we already knew that reality is far deeper than what we see.
The way space-time, composed of spatial dimensions plus time, aligns with the precision that is almost haunting when compared to the celestial layers in Buddhist or Bible texts. In the Shurangama Sutra, a profound truth was hidden. The world is a sphere of direction. East, west, south, north, up, and down are dimensions. Past, future, present are states. If that is the philosophy expressed in the East, then in the West there is Psalm 139 verses 7 through 10. Where can I go from your spirit? Or where can I flee from your presence? If I ascend to heaven, you are there. If I make my bed in Sheol, you are there. If I take the wings of the morning and settle at the farthest limits of the sea, even there your hand shall lead me, and your right hand shall hold me fast. Long before modern physics, the God had already defined the world as a union of space and time. At John 14, verse 2, "In my Father's house are many mansions, or rooms. If it were not so, I would have told you." This is the ancient echo of our Milky Way. Beyond it, the 10 directions house countless galaxies, an infinite lattice of flourishing scenes where different laws of physics and life forms coexist in higher dimensions. Does this help you understand how different dimensions and spacetimes objectively exist? Different time and space dimensions lead to different forms of life and distinct physical laws. This is likely what Buddha referred to as the flourishing scenes in the 3,000 Great Thousand Worlds. Michio Kaku argues that our textbooks are wrong. They tell us the universe is made of atoms, but that is a fraction of the truth. Over the last decade, we've learned the universe is primarily dark, a vast mystery of dark matter and dark energy. Like Einstein in his later years, Kaku realized that the highest form of science is not found in particles, but in the mind of the Creator. Behind the vibrations of strings lies a force beyond comprehension. So he proposed the tachyon theory. This is a hypothetical subatomic particle that, according to theoretical predictions, travels faster than light. It's an imaginary particle stemming from the theory of relativity, moving at speeds exceeding the speed of light. Tachyons could potentially separate the vacuum space between matter or particles in the universe, making everything immune to the influence of the surrounding universe. After probing these boundaries, he presented a captivating conclusion: the evidence for the existence of the Creator. He stated that we exist within a framework governed by rules created by a universal intelligence, not by random chance. What is this all-encompassing universal intelligence? Some call it physics, others call it a symphony, but for Michio Kaku, only God can provide that explanation. As we peer into the higher dimensions, we find that the pond is much deeper than we ever imagined. Kaku believes that if the Creator exists, he must be a mathematician. The 10 and 11-dimensional realms of string theory are not merely empty spaces, they are realms of supersymmetry. This discovery didn't just change physics, it birthed a new era of supermathematics and differential geometry. In the world of strings, everything, from the smallest atom to the largest star, can be distilled into the purity of a single equation. But perhaps the Creator is also a musician. To understand the mind of the divine is to discover a cosmic melody, countless frequencies of strings vibrating in harmony. These vibrations resonate through the 11-dimensional superspace, creating the myriad particles that weave the fabric of our existence. This grand symphony is more than just physics. It is the very shape of the universe. It is the music of the Creator's thoughts. What do you think? Has physics finally answered the ancient questions of our soul? It seems that in the higher dimensions above us, there are beings observing our lives, just as we watch the koi fish in their shallow pond. We are never truly alone. We are simply blind to the audience watching from the balcony of the 11th dimension.